Let's all rise for the flag salute, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
liberty.
with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call. Claudia.
Here.
Alan.
Here.
John. Tracy Ellen.
Here.
Doug.
Here.
Barbara.
Here.
Joe.
Present.
Stephanie.
Here.
Al.
Here.
Is Jesse here?
Yeah, here.
Jesse is.
Yep.
Noel.
Here.
And Joshua.
Here.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provision of this act, the Riverdale Regional Board of Education has caused this notice of this meeting to be publicized by having the date, time, and place thereof sent to the Record, Ridgewood News, and the Town News newspapers. The constituent borough clerks and borough libraries, as well as posting in the school district's principal's offices, faculty rooms, and board office. According to New Jersey Public Law 2001, Chapter 226, the smoking or use of any tobacco product is strictly prohibited anywhere in public school buildings or anywhere in school grounds, including but not limited to the parking lots, grassy areas, and athletic fields. Violators will be subject to a fine not to exceed $100. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I'll read the mission statement. The mission of the Riverdale Regional School District is to provide a safe, student-centered environment in which each student is valued and respected, to challenge each student to reach his or her potential, to nurture every student's intellectual, social, physical, and emotional growth, to promote a healthy work ethic, a passion for learning, and a respect for oneself and other, to develop responsible citizens for our diverse community and an ever-changing world, to continue to involve our community in an active partnership, to provide all students the opportunity to achieve and exceed the New Jersey Student Learning Standards and the New Jersey Core Curriculum Content Standards. We move into public comments, and this portion of the public comments is on agenda items only. There will be a segment at the end of the meeting for public discussion on any other items that are not on the agenda. So Mark, do we have any public comments on agenda items only?
Anybody like to raise their hand? Go ahead right now. Nobody's looking for
Okay.
comments.
All right, thank you, Mark. We'll get into the student member report. I have Jesse listed first. Jesse, you have anything for us tonight?
Not really, no.
Okay, Noel?
I don't have anything.
How about Josh?
No, not really. I think everyone's just excited for the marking period to be over and looking forward to the second semester. And if they have like different classes, they're looking forward to that.
Okay. Well, since it's kind of quiet on your front, I'd like to just present a quick question to each of you. And it doesn't have to be a long answer, but who is virtual and who is in the hybrid? And what have your experiences been so far this year? I mean, we can imagine, but I'd just like to hear from you folks. You know, Jesse, how about yourself?
Yeah, I was going in actually like for the hybrid, like even though there weren't that many people, I was still going in. But then last week, like I play basketball too, and basketball got shut down. So like I'm on like I'm not allowed to go into school right now, so I'm on like all just virtual now.
Okay. How about Noel?
I was doing the hybrid too, but I just kind of found that there weren't that many students going in, so
I thought it was more beneficial just to be at home. That way I felt like more like with the class.
Okay. Josh?
Yeah, I was in hybrid up until I think November, and then that was like towards the end of our cross country season, and I went all virtual because I wanted to like continue with that, and then I've been virtual since because I kind of like it. It's easier just to wake up and go online instead of like making the trek to the school. I mean, I live like 3 minutes away, but still, it's nice to just have like that extra 3 minutes.
Right. Okay, thanks, guys. My report, I took a couple of minutes today to visit the high school and find Jack Hines. And I just want to have a shout out to Mr. Hines for everything he has done for the district over the past few months. First sitting as an interim vice principal and then moving over to the principal's office when Miss Brooks retired. Jack has been with us in some very trying times, and I just want to extend a big thank you from the board for all of his efforts over the past few months. And also today was, I believe, Mr. Pepe's first day in the high school building as our new principal. I did not get a chance to speak to him. I hope he had a productive and memorable first day. Welcome back to Riverdale, Mr. Pepe, and good luck. Couple of quick things. I know we have some presentations lined up for our next couple of meetings. On February 8th, Matt Lee from New Jersey School Boards will be visiting virtually for the ethics presentation that we do every year. And then on March 15th, Vince DeLucia from New Jersey School Boards will be presenting training on hidden bias. So we look forward to having both of those gentlemen at future meetings. That's all I have for tonight. So Patrick, the microphone is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Graff. Just going to echo your first comments regarding the transition between Jack Hines and Brian Pepe. Brian started today. Jack is also with us today. He will be with us through the rest of the week in an in-person format. He will also continue to support us in a virtual format beginning next week so that we can continue to have that knowledge transfer that takes place. Brian did not go running and screaming from the building after the first day. I hope to see him again tomorrow, which means that he had a good day. All kidding aside, we met a couple of times during the day. I just met him now before he left the office, and he had, I think, a pretty good day. He was able to tour the building. He was able to meet a number of staff members and a number of students that were in the building. He was also in over the weekend, so he had an opportunity to really get a good feel for the flow of the building, because it's been a while since he was here, and there have been some significant changes with additions and modifications to the facility. So we welcome Brian, and we thank Jack, as Al said, for his commitment to Riverdale, because he served us far more than any interim that I could ever imagine. As Al said, we have a couple of trainings coming up. I want to give an update on our COVID situation. We reopened for in-person instruction on January 4th. Unfortunately, we had a positive case in a staff member in the first week of school at the middle school, which resulted in a closure of 2 days and contact tracing. We reopened for in-person instruction on the 11th, and unfortunately had 2 additional positive cases in staff members, which resulted in 4 staff members being in quarantine, as well as approximately 29 students. However, that meets the criteria of 3 unrelated, or more than 2, I should say, unrelated positive cases in the facility, which indicates the opportunity for closure. Subsequently, we've been notified of a couple additional students. Thankfully, they are doing well and are virtual, so they did not have an impact on the school. We've been notified of 2 cases of COVID in staff members here at the high school. We just received one being a positive just about an hour ago, and one that we are awaiting results. So we will go through contact tracing tomorrow, which is a virtual day for us, and see what kind of impact that will have on our school facility. So it's fair to say that cases continue to rise in our community. Once again, I'm thankful that we have not had a transmission in the building. We've had multiple people infected in the building, but the infections came from outside. And thankfully, we have not had a transition from staff member to student, student to student, or student to staff member at this time. I hope that that trend continues. We are all awaiting anxiously to find out where educators fall on the vaccination list. While there have been indications that it's been expanded to include educators as a group of people, clearly we're dealing with a supply issue at this point, where there are just not enough vaccines to go around in order to be able to penetrate the population in any meaningful way at this point. So we will continue to monitor that situation and watch it. Riverdale is not the only one that's had to deal with that closure.
Patrick,
Yes.
may I ask, is
Sure.
it possible to mute people? There's a lot of background noise. It's hard to hear Patrick.
Alrighty, I'll take a look.
Thank you.
We're not the only ones who are dealing with that. One of our sending districts, River Edge, 2 of their 3 schools are closed. One will reopen on the 21st of January, the second on January 25th. So we're all dealing with it, and it's an indication that the virus has penetrated fairly deeply into our community. As Al indicated, we have some upcoming trainings, which will continue us moving forward to our goal to remain as a certified board of education. On tonight's calendar, on tonight's agenda is the proposed calendar for next year. It's been coordinated with both the River Edge and Oradell school districts. There are going to be some individual nuances, of course, between them, but our major vacations and holidays line up at this point. I think it's fair to say that the calendar will remain in flux, particularly because of what we're all dealing with the COVID situation. We need to stay hopeful that we can return to some form of a more traditional school experience come September. With that in mind, I am going to discuss at this point some schedule modifications for the remainder of the school year. I'm going to speak about it conceptually because I did send a spreadsheet out earlier today to the staff to look at, and I sent it to the board to look at. And unfortunately, about 90 minutes ago, I discovered an error in the spreadsheet, which changes that rotation that's there. So that spreadsheet that I shared should be ignored, and I'm not going to be recommending that we move forward with it tonight, but I want to talk about it conceptually so that we have an opportunity to look at it in the very near future. So after we looked at different feedback modes, which we received through surveys, conversations, meetings, as well as direct emails, what became clear are 2 important factors. The first one being that there's a desire for more in-person learning opportunities, a more balanced approach to the minutes per period, and the elimination of the virtual Wednesday. So having said that, I've asked my team to take a look at the process. And I said, aside from the error that I discovered a few minutes ago, I'm going to be recommending the board that we begin 5-day per week in-person instruction similar to what we've been doing now with this 4 periods in the morning. So instead of the Wednesday being all virtual, there would be 5 mornings every week where students would have the opportunity to attend. We will, I think, need to resurvey our community to determine and better identify students who will continue in a virtual format. Based upon the conversation, the questions that Mr. Graff just asked of our student liaisons, we've had some pretty significant changes in the number of students who are attending on a regular basis. Last week was an anomaly here at the high school because we also, in a group format, administered the driver's ed test. So last week is not necessarily the best indication of it, but we are certainly down to between 100 and 120 students attending at the high school on a daily basis and about 130 at the middle school, which is a pretty significant drop off from what the original cohort will be. So we need to resurvey the community to determine who is going to remain in an all virtual format so that we can provide those opportunities to bring back some other students on a more regular basis. And we would use a stratified approach to look at that, where we would first focus on all students with IEPs to determine if we could bring them back, they could attend school up to 5 days per week. Currently, our self-contained class, or those that have indicated that they would, are attending 4 days per week. So we would expand beyond self-contained to the first group being students with IEPs. The second group that we would then look at is those with 504 plans. The third group would be any struggling learner that we have as defined by our intervention and referral service process. Then we would look at the opportunity to bring back general education students. All families would have to indicate an understanding through a permission slip that the process remains in flux, and should more students return to in-person learning, we may have to modify in reverse order those students who have indicated that they were going to attend more frequently. What's important is to try conceptually to balance the student-teacher contact that takes place over a 2 to 4 week cycle. And what I mean by that is we have currently a 4-day rotation of cohort A, cohort B, cohort A, cohort B. And that's 4 cohorts attending over in a 5-day period, which would, currently they're attending each cohort is attending twice a week. In this case, what would happen is, again, conceptually, and again, ignore the spreadsheet that was sent out earlier. 1 week, 1 cohort would attend 3 times, the next week, 2 times, and the other cohort would be in 2 times the first week, and then 3 in the second week. The difficult part, of course, is trying to determine the implementation date to do this. Ideally, it would be to start it on the first day of the 3rd marking period. However, I think that's unrealistic, particularly because the middle school remains closed until the first day back would be January 28th at this point. And I would want to begin the new schedule when both schools were in session at the same time. Secondly, as I've indicated a couple of times already, there was an error in our spreadsheet, so I think we need to go back and look at that. So I think more realistically, we're looking at the opportunity to begin this on February 22nd, which is the first day back from the February break. That would also give us a better opportunity to review and survey the community, survey the students, contact those who would have the opportunity to come back on a more regular basis, and it would allow us to make any adjustments which clearly are necessary based on the error I discovered, adjust any busing and last-minute adjustments that we need to the format. So conceptually, that's what I'm going to be recommending that we do. Again, at this point, I think it's fair to target February 22nd as the date to put this into motion, which would also give us an opportunity to clean up the recommendation for February 8th. And that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you, Patrick. We had reorg our last meeting, so some of the committees have been reformatted. We did keep some of them status quo, but hasn't been a lot of committee meetings since our reorg. But I'll run through anyway in case somebody does have something to report. Budget and Finance, Joe Manzelli is the chair. Joe, do you have anything to say?
Please unmute yourself, Joe.
Joe, unmute yourself.
My apologies. I
That's
didn't realize. We have not had any meetings, but we do have a meeting scheduled later this week on Thursday to review the annual audit by the auditors. So that will be our first one, and then Tom will be getting us some more information towards budget for next year as well. So
okay.
hopefully by next meeting we'll have something more to report.
Thank you. Doug, Facilities and Security.
We have not had another meeting, but I'll be working with Tom this coming week to schedule out our meetings for the coming year.
Right.
Or 6 months, Tom.
That's right. Is John with us?
I'm on now.
Okay, John. Do you have anything to report?
I don't. There'll be an item on the agenda later to refresh our technology. So the committee has been working on that, and we'll have a recommendation, I think, as part of the agenda related to the refresh of the laptops.
Perfect. Claudia, Curriculum.
I have nothing right now to report. Just happy that our committee is pretty much staying intact.
Right. Okay, and Stephanie, Policy and Governance.
Nothing to report at the moment, but policy changes seem to come like curriculum changes. Just when you think you're done, there's a new one. So I'm sure as the year goes on, we will have some work to be done. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Let's move into the consent agenda then. May I have a motion for consent?
It's Claudia. I'll make a motion.
Second?
I'll second. It's Doug.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions on the consent agenda? Okay. Tom, when you're ready.
Claudia,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Tracy Ellen,
Yeah.
Doug,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
and Al.
Yes. Okay, it looks like we have a retirement. It is recommended by the superintendent that the board accept with regret the resignation due to retirement of teacher of Spanish, Mary Joan Wilcoxon, effective March 1st, 2021. May I have a
This is
motion?
Joe. I'll make that motion, regrettably.
Okay,
I'll
Joe?
second it. It's Claudia.
Claudia, thank you.
Mr. Graff, before you vote, I would just like to extend once again my thanks to everybody who's been working diligently during this time. Mary Joan has done a wonderful job working virtually for us and has also stayed on longer, I think, than she probably would have wanted to as a favor to the district. She's always been a loyal employee of the district, and I want to extend my thanks to her. She'll be leaving us at the end of February. We have a new teacher coming on board. They're going to work together for a week during that transition. We wish Mary Joan well as she moves forward, and she will be, of course, invited back later in the school year when we recognize all our retirees in June.
Okay, thank you. Tom, are you ready?
Claudia,
Yes, and with regret, I wish her the best of luck. She so deserves it.
Alan,
Yes, and the best of luck.
John,
Yes.
Tracy Ellen,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Joe,
Well, seeing that she's on the meeting as well, Ms. Wilcoxon, yes, and we wish you luck. Thank you.
Stephanie,
Yes, and I'd like to say that, you know, I was lucky to have one of my graduates not only have her, but travel abroad with her and her husband. And I wish they have as many wonderful adventures as she provided for our students.
and Dow.
Yes, and thank you, and good luck and good health. Okay, our second vote is under number 13, Finance and District Operation, letter D. The superintendent, at the request of the board secretary, recommends that the board accept line item transfers listed in the financial report for the month ending December 2020. May I have a motion, please?
I'll move on that. It's Alan.
Thank
And
you,
I'll
Alan.
second it. It's Joe.
Okay, does anybody have any questions or concerns about the line item transfers? Okay, Tom, when you're ready.
Claudia,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Tracy Ellen,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
and Al.
Yes. Okay, the third and final vote is also under number 13, Finance and District Operation, letter H. It is recommended by the superintendent and board secretary that the board approve the master lease with Hewlett-Packard for the one-to-one laptop program. The aggregate cost for the period is $2,207,850. March 1, 2021 through June 30th, 2024. The annual payment is $682,380. May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion. It's Stephanie.
Okay,
I'll
Steph.
second
I'll second.
Claudia.
It's Doug.
Oh, somebody.
I had Claudia there. Sorry, Doug. Does anybody have any questions or concerns?
I'd like to just add a comment here. It's important to point out to the board members here, it's that this is a not to exceed number.
Right.
So we've asked the superintendent to take one final discussion, but they need this approval to move forward. There's, you know, a big shortage in the market. So the committee looked at this. We're recommending that this move forward. And then anything in addition that we can do to help this number, the superintendent will do that.
Al, I got another question though on this. Will these be the same type of devices? I know it's with Hewlett Packard, so same type, because I know in the past we've looked at different devices and all too. Was anything else, or was it different model?
Well, yeah, it's updated. Maybe John wants to take this, but a couple of items that stand out, it's going to be the same unit or same machine for both middle school and high school. The two schools did have different laptops in their previous lease. And the gigabytes, I believe, have been increased to 16. And John might want to have more
Joe,
detail to that.
these looking forward in 3 years and trying to just continues to kind of make a great experience for the students and the computing environment. So obviously they're updated, and what just Al mentioned, it's a unified unit across the buildings, which allows much better recycle between the buildings and obviously support and everything else that goes with it. So this should streamline IT support to a very large extent.
Okay.
It also gives the middle schoolers a better experience than the laptops with the smaller screens that they had prior.
Correct.
And I believe, this is Stephanie, I believe that Patrick had, when we asked about the gigabyte difference, He had said that a lot of the videos and streaming that are used in the classrooms sometimes do have issue at the lower gigabyte at the 8. So this should make that experience more impactful and without as many glitches.
And I'm assuming you guys are talking about not hard drive memory, but the RAM.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, Tom, when you're ready?
Claudia,
Yes.
Alan,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Tracy Ellen,
Yes.
Doug,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Stephanie,
Yes.
and Al.
Yes. Okay, that leads us to old business, new business.
New business.
I'm sorry. Okay. The one thing I do want to bring up is we had looked at the meeting schedule for the balance of the year, and we had discussed, I believe, looking at adding a meeting between February 8th and March 15th. Do we want to, Patrick, do you have a calendar handy in front of you, or that maybe we can throw a date or two out and get a consensus as to when we can add a meeting between February 8th and March 15th? That's a note I had from the last meeting.
March 1st is right in the middle of that window, Al.
Okay. Is that a Monday or
That's a
Tuesday?
That's a
Monday.
Monday.
Monday, March 1.
Both March 1st, 8th are available, but as John said, March 1st is not going to.
I think you're on mute, Patrick.
Pat, you're muted. You can hear it through somebody's mic, but
I apologize. I said both, the available dates are the 22nd of February, March 1st, and March 8th. But as John indicated, March 1st is dead in the middle of that, so it's probably a good date to shoot for.
Okay. So we'll tentatively go with March 1st?
Okay.
Okay. So we're going to add March 1st to the calendar for a BOE meeting. Okay. I'll open it up to everybody else here for old business, new business.
Al, it's Stephanie. You had sent out in one of your correspondence, a little teaser about thinking about the board goals, that we were thinking about short-term board goals.
Yes.
I'm thinking, and Joe had said maybe we could, discuss them and / vote on them at that interim meeting. But maybe to give the process as much as possible, maybe we could all think of stuff and send it to Patrick to compile before the next meeting. And then put, because I'm sure we have maybe there'll be overlapping ideas. So instead of us, spending a half hour throwing out the same ideas, maybe Patrick could whittle it down and we could have a list to discuss at the next meeting. If we feel like we could take action at that meeting, we could, but if not, we'll at least have the final version ready for that March 1st. Does that make sense?
Sure. Let's all be on the same page, though. And when we say short-term goals, we looking at to take us through the end of the school year?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Good.
So just to add to that, Stephanie, when I was arranging the trainings that we discussed earlier, I did talk about board goal process with Matt Lee, our school board's rep, and he suggested precisely what you just did, which is to have a focal point to collect the ideas and then put them together. So I would just ask everybody to try to get them to me maybe by the end of next week.
Two only.
And I would try to, stick with 2 goals per person so that I could kind of, put them together.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Doug, did you have something? I thought I heard you before.
No, that was a cough.
Oh, okay. Anybody else have anything, old business, new business? Okay, we'll go into public comments. As always, you're going to be limited to 3 minutes. Be respectful, please, and just hit your little chat icon and state your name and what town you're from, and ask away. Mark will facilitate. So Mark?
Alrighty, we actually have two questions or questions from the meeting chat that happened just before. The first one is from Adam Lichtenstein. Why were parents not notified that there are students that are now in both cohort A and cohort B?
Well, as I indicated at our last couple of meetings, that we were going to be looking to expand the opportunity for students to attend who are in our self-contained program. There are sometimes some extenuating circumstances that involve other students in the same family, and I am aware of at least one of those situations. So if that's what you're referring to, that's what I can comment on. If you're referring to something else, I would have to go and do some further discussion on that.
And the next comment is from Amy O'Leary. Have they considered combining both cohorts since there are not many students in these classes? Several have 1 or 2 students in them, and is discouraging to students to not want to go in?
Actually, that's a great point. That's, I think, something that we can consider once we resurvey the community and the families to determine who's going to choose virtual all the time. The problem is that when we first did this back in the summertime and then resurveyed in the early part of the fall, people committed to it, and they stayed with the process. What's unfortunately happened is that more and more students are attending, if you'll forgive the expression, on a casual basis. So they're listed as hybrid students, and they're coming in on certain days and not on other days. So I would like it to be able to say unequivocally that if there's 100 students in the building for cohort A on a Monday and 100 students in the building for cohort A on a Thursday, that they're the same 100 students, but they're not. And that's what we need to clarify. So the question may, or the result may be what you just asked, but we have to resurvey in order to get to the bottom of that.
Here's a follow-up question from Adam Lichtenstein. Students that are not inclusive or 504 are now in both cohorts. Why weren't the parents notified that this was happening?
Well, as I just indicated what I am aware of, and I will have to go back and look further.
Any more comments or questions? Please raise your hand.
That's it? Okay. I'm going to may I have a motion to move into executive?
It's Claudia. I'll make the motion.
Actually, can I make a motion to end regular session and go into executive? And then, which,
Okay. Sorry, Joe, you're correct. Motion is made by Joe. Can I second that to end regular
Claudia.
agenda?
I'll second.
Okay, Claudia, thank you. And then the motion to move to executive was Claudia. Anyone want to second that?
I'll second that.
That's Joe. Okay.
And just so the public knows, when we come out of executive session, no decisions will be made or anything. It's just that's a formality to go into executive to discuss some personnel matters.
Correct. Thank you.
Right. So if I could just be even more clear on this process. At this point, what's going to happen is the Board of Education is going to leave the meeting and this meeting, and then we will reopen an additional meeting for executive session at which only the board members will be attending. It is simply to discuss some personnel items. As Mr. Manzelli indicated, there'll be no action taken regarding these personnel items. And then what will happen as a formality is we will have to end the executive session, return to this meeting with a one motion to adjourn it. So you are all welcome to stay for as long as the executive session is concerned, but I just want anybody who's attending virtually to understand that the only thing that will happen whenever we finish executive is to return to adjourn the regular meeting.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And we made the motion to end this, so we'll see you all on the other side.